This is your friendly spoiler alert from Marvel and Makeup. MCU spoilers ahead.
Welcome to Marvel and Makeup. I'm Quincy.
And I'm Kay, and I'm going to teach Quincy a little bit about Marvel.
And I'm going to teach Kay a little bit about makeup.
Quincy, we made a podcast. We're doing it. This is the first episode.
Our first episode.
Marvel.
Also, did I introduce? Sorry. We're already going off the rails. I was like, did I even say my sentence correctly?
I think so.
Okay. Well, it's too late. We're recording.
Ye are. It's the first episode of Marvel and Makeup. This is so exciting. Quincy and I have been doing improv together
For almost
years.
Yeah, it's 6 years and counting.
Yeah.
5 years? I don't know. It's been so long.
Theaters were, a thing that you went out to and you put up shows at, to come back in the near future, very hopefully. And we decided, we were talking one day.
Yes, I remember I called you to check up on you to see how you were doing.
Yes.
And I think you were talking about how you were binge watching the entire Marvel franchise again for the 27th time.
Yes, I was rewatching all the MCU movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, because I'm a Marvel fan and they bring me joy. And so in these times, I wanted to comfort myself, and I was rewatching them, and you said you had not seen all of them, or you'd only seen a couple here and there.
I had seen what I thought was just one, which was Iron Man, which I remember watching in theaters either in high school or college.
Okay, yes, because you are young and I am older. I also saw it in the theaters, but I also started talking about how it was the first one in a long number of movies, and you were just like, "What? What's this about?"
Yeah, I was
this.
Yes, because I forget, but I think not last year.
But you had an idea, right?
I had an idea, but I think leading in 2019 when things were wrapping up, I didn't understand. I don't know how. I'm an actor and writer. I don't know how I missed this, but I just remember everyone being excited about Endgame.
Yes, Endgame. The final.
I didn't understand that. Yes. I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah, and I thought to myself, I'm a Marvel fan. I may not be your classic Marvel fan who's been reading comic books from a very young age. I still don't read comic books on a regular basis, but I fell in love with the superhero Marvel universe when I watched the X-Men cartoon when I was a kid in the 90s, so dating myself. And from there I would watch most of the Marvel type superheroes on shows and TV, and then so when the MCU came out, I've been on board this whole time. Mm-hmm. And I thought, what a great way to share my love for Marvel than put in a podcast with Quincy.
Yes. Wait, sidebar. I just realized you said you're aging yourself because you watched the
cartoons in the
90s, and I'm sitting here realizing, oh, weren't we all children in the 90s? And then it's really weird to think that there are children. I mean, it's fact, but it's breaking my brain to be oh, there are children who grew up in the 2000s and the 2010s.
Well, and I read something online recently that anyone now who has a 1 in the year of their birth date is automatically, people know that they are over 21 because it's now 2021. So if you see, if a person who's checking ID and they see a 2, they know they have to check further because it's, 20, they could be born past in the 2000s. Oh, that's easy to remember. If you have a 1, then you're clear.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. No, when you said that, I was like, wait, weren't we all kids in the 90s? There are non-kids.
But there's a range of childhood of people in the 90s. But then when we kept talking, I also was talking about how, life is different now and by using Zoom a lot more.
Mm-hmm. We are
right now. And how I realized that as a person who doesn't wear makeup on a regular basis, that I was seeing my face every single day. And I thought, this is why people wear makeup, because I could see the spots on my face that, I usually wouldn't see if I was just walking around day to day.
And we've had conversations about makeup before.
Yes. And about my relationship with makeup and how I don't wear it that much. But when I think about makeup personally, of like all the people I know, I think Quincy knows about makeup because she uses it on a regular basis, on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, you usually at least have like the face and a little bit of the eye, and your relationship with makeup is more like my relationship with Marvel.
Yeah, I enjoy makeup. I wouldn't say I feel like I'm like you, Kay. I wouldn't say I'm your like typical makeup fan. I don't wear like a heavy beat. I don't, it's very simple. It's very day to day. To be honest, when I was wearing a lot of makeup on my face was in college when I was going out to dick clubs. And I don't really, we can't go clubbing anymore, period. But like, I don't really go clubbing. Now when I do apply a lot of makeup, it's for like the rare occasion. Well, again, pre-COVID. When I did drag, which was a lot of fun. But my makeup's pretty straightforward. I enjoy makeup. I feel like I was a makeup artist in another life.
Yeah, but the thing is when I think of like wearing makeup, just the idea of doing it on a daily basis, that is something you do, right? Like on a day-to-day basis.
I would say it's not every day. Generally, it's mostly for auditions, or mostly just generally for auditions. I don't typically, and I eventually we'll get into skincare.
Yes, that's also something I don't know much about. I'm just like, soap. Skincare. You wash soap with your face. You use soap, any type of soap. If it says face soap, then I'm just okay, that's a little bit better. But that's also something. Yeah, I do moisturize. I do moisturize after I wash my face. But that is another thing that we will be able to talk about in this podcast.
Yes.
Marvel. And makeup.
It's all your Marvel and makeup needs, guys. Here.
Yes.
All in one place.
At least the needs of Quincy and me will be covered.
We're going to learn a lot. We're going to teach each other a lot. And so we hope that you guys, whenever you tune in, learn a lot too.
Yeah. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be watching every single movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe in chronological order in which it was released. And in the first part of the episode...
Oh, okay. You said chronological episode. Wait. Can I interject since I learned something?
Yes.
So I learned from Kay in preparing for the podcast launch that there is something called phases. I personally don't understand why they're called phases. I also don't understand why there are different numbers of movies in the phases. Like you would think it'd be like 5 or maybe you know the answer. I don't know. 5, like 5, but like some of them are like 10, 3, and it kind of drives me crazy that the numbers are a little lopsided.
Correct. The first 2 phases, I believe, have 6 movies in each of them. I will double check that. But the second one has double that, has closer to 10, I believe. And basically the way the phases are is that they're supposed to kind of like, in the story of the MCU, kind of like, cover a specific chapter of like the overall story. But yeah, currently there are 3 phases that have been released. Technically, the next movie, I believe, will be part of phase 4, and that's the Black Widow movie.
Okay. Did not know this. Also, I did not know there was 22 Marvel movies out. I thought there was like 10.
I believe there's like 23.
Okay, yeah.
But again, we're going to be covering all of this, and today... for the first part of the podcast, we're going to be talking about one of the Marvel movies. Second part of the podcast, we're going to talk about one item of makeup and learning how to apply that. And in today's first premiere episode of Marvel and Makeup,
can we get a drum roll?
Woo! Yes, we're going to be talking about Iron Man. Dun, dun, dun. What? The OG Avenger in this MCU chronological movie release timeline, because I know technically that's not right. In terms
say that again?
technically he's not the original Avenger because Captain America was, but that's not but that movie was released after Iron Man. We're gonna talk about that when that happens.
Okay, also this is the only movie I think I mentioned this is the only movie I've ever watched.
Yes, so
that was Marvel. Not true, but like up until I saw the list of the phases, like I didn't know this other movie. You didn't
know any of the other ones.
Yeah, I didn't know this other movie was part of the Marvel universe.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. We both watched Iron Man to prepare for the episode. Iron Man was released on May 4th, 2008, just to give you a good reminder of what was going on in that time. Your first African-American U.S. president had been elected, Barack Obama.
Daddy Obama.
Yep. And it was also that summer was the Beijing Olympics, where Michael Phelps won 3 gold medals and Usain Bolt won a gold medal for 100 meters and also created a world record for the 100 meters. Jay-Z and Beyonce got married that year.
Yes. Are you serious? 2008? I feel like they've been married forever.
Forever. I mean, they've been an item for many, many years since since most people believe since Crazy in Love, I believe.
Probably, yes.
And the
sidebar, sorry, really quick with Beijing. We're based in Los Angeles, and I love food, and the one place I've been I'm exploring food-wise is Chinatown for like authentic Chinese food.
Is that close? You're in Koreatown though, right? Is that close?
I'm in Koreatown. Okay. Yeah, it's like a 15-20 minute drive.
So, but you
just needed to do a Chinatown plug.
Okay.
No, because every time I do delivery, yes, support your local restaurants, guys. Every time I try to order from Postmates or Grubhub, it ends in utter failure.
I've had my delivery snafus have been on the rise lately, but you realize they probably have so much more to deliver now. But just to get us back to 2008, a couple more things that had happened. Top song that year on the Billboard was "Low" by Flo Rida.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
that was like the party music in college.
Yeah, and the whole thing where people would be dancing and then
you would have to go all the way low to the ground.
Man, my knees. Just
my knees also hurt thinking about that.
Knees.
I wish I had younger knees.
And one more quick fact, Britney Spears released her album Circus that year, which as a Britney Spears fan, I didn't really listen to, but I did watch the episode that was also that year of How I Met Your Mother, where she guest starred.
Oh, she was great. Yeah, I love that show. I cried watching that show. Excuse me. I love sitcoms for that reason, because they make you laugh and cry. I did not know you were a Britney fan. Okay?
Well, again, child of the 90s, she was part of that whole pop kind of like renaissance that happened in the late 90s with your NSYNC and your Backstreet Boys and your Christinas and Britney. So, yeah, her whole first album, I was like there for, but her later stuff, she had a bunch of personal problems and had a bit of drama. It kind of became, a little sad, yeah, to kind of like keep along with her. But, apparently, according to the internet, Circus was her comeback album, and that album came out.
It was actually a good album, I think. I feel like I listened to that album. I feel like, Britney was like the only, so I lived like pretty much under a rock as a child. My parents didn't let me consume a whole lot of media or pop culture. But Britney, that's like the power of Britney, was like she was like the one pop song, and like Backstreet Boys and NSYNC that like was able to infiltrate my home.
I feel like because that pop renaissance happened, and it was so kind of like more ubiquitous on the innocent side of things after like the whole like grunge kind of like era where it's like we're very we're anti-authority. Like once the pop thing happened, parents kind of relaxed a little. They're just like, oh, this reminds me of my childhood with like the Jackson 5 and Motown and stuff like that.
Also, sidebar, I just want to point out for our first episode, Kay and I have shown up matching. She is wearing gray and I'm wearing gray. And if you guys check out our YouTube channel, which we're going to post this on. You'll see how cute matchy we are.
That's the other thing about this podcast. We're releasing it both as a pod and also as a video pod, so you will be able to see us if you want to, or just listen to us if you want to. It is up to you. We are all into creating choices for our audience. But let's dive into the Marvel of it all, Iron Man. The first MCU movie, the intro to the MCU, so many things and characters happen in this movie that, this is the foundation of the whole entire universe. For me, it was really just exciting to watch it again, and every single piece that I knew that was going to be continuing on in the universe, I noticed, and it was that little kind of thrill of oh, I know it's coming for this. So it was nice to see it being established.
So you felt like they were laying down the groundwork and planting seeds for this huge franchise. From the beginning.
Exactly. And these are seeds and Easter eggs that that when I originally saw it, I had no idea.
Okay, I will say I did catch 2 seeds of my own.
Yes.
And I also had subtitles on, so that's also why I was oh, okay. Was when Agent, what's his name? The FBI agent.
Colson.
Okay,
yes.
So I watched another movie, and I know, spoiler alert.
Yes, spoiler alert.
Right? And I remember when I watched this Marvel movie that I kind of knew, I think I knew it was a Marvel movie, when he dies.
Oh, yes. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. I was I didn't quite understand the meaning. It was a very sad death, but in seeing, I had completely forgotten he was in this movie. So when I see him, I was oh, he's been here from the beginning. If you've been with him since the beginning, that's why that was so profound. At the end, when, Gwyneth Pepper Potts is who do we call? And he goes, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I was oh, that's a seed. That's a seed. And then
into a whole TV series.
Yes, I am aware of that.
Technically, it's not part of the MCU because of the way the business arrangements was. But to me, this will also come down the line. I loved Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It is one of my favorite shows ever, and we will most definitely talk about it more.
Cool.
Because it's such a good show, and I watched every single episode, and it's very close to my heart. But yeah, so what else occurred to you when you watched Iron Man this time around?
There was 2 things really that stood out to me. Was at the beginning and at the end, for I guess similarly different reasons.
Yes.
The first one was that first act was really hard to watch. Especially because I watched this the morning after this past Wednesday. If you guys don't know, we're 2 weeks into 2021.
Yes, we are recording this at the end of the first week of 2021, and if you are listening to this when we release this, it will probably most likely be end of February, March. This was a very let's say a historical week for the U.S. Current government, for our democracy.
Yes. So it's just really hard to watch this first act. Like you said, it was made in 2008, and I told 9/11 happened in 2001, which is 7 years after. So I understand in the context of when this movie was made. But it was just really hard to watch.
And that was specifically because of the people of color and the kind of the
way Middle Eastern characters were portrayed as evil, power hungry people. And this is not even this archetype needs to be changed, but Yinsen plays the noble savage, which again, not PC, but that's the current word for the archetype. He plays that
the kind
archetype.
Of the Pocahontas archetype.
Yes, where it's self-sacrificial.
Like a white protagonist through a journey, and then actually sacrifices himself.
Yes, and then serves as the catalyst for the white male protagonist to change, right?
Yes.
And it was just really hard to sit and watch that knowing, the current state of affairs, and we're watching this through the eyes of 2021.
Yeah, first week of 2021.
On the flip side, though, I appreciated that they played rock music for his theme song because, again, I realized
his theme song being Black Sabbath's Iron Man, which is a well-known classic rock song. It
was great.
And his kind of theme throughout the movie, and also later on, I believe they tend to reference that in the other movies.
Yes, throughout the movie. And I realized, I feel like if this was made now, it would be hip hop music, and not necessarily rock music because I don't know, white people don't make rock music anymore. And I love emo music, rock music. I grew up listening to it, and I wish we heard more of it because it just felt so cool and edgy and badass to listen to that, like dana dana dana, and you already know what I'm talking about, and I miss that.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the kind of disadvantage of like the melting pot is like everything gets so kind of like mixed and blended together that sometimes something that's kind of like purely of a specific style can get lost. But I do understand what you're saying. I feel like in this kind of like modern era where, like the youths want to be like, cool. So they're not necessarily like, everyone's kind of like pulling from different places. I will say, I wasn't as aware as of those specific things in terms of like the portrayal of the people of color. I think mainly because I kind of was playing into the fact of like, they are trying to set up this world and this character in very specific ways. And in order to do that, they had to portray those people, those characters in those ways. Like, these are the evil, he's the good guy. But I would say that, even though he is a good guy, he isn't necessarily your hero type, which kind of, even though, like, the Middle Eastern characters are, villainous, like, they're not necessarily... They're villains, but the hero isn't necessarily a great guy. Like, for me, what stood out was, like, he's kind of sexist. He's very rich and entitled. But the idea is that those are his flaws that he's going to be redeeming himself of throughout his journey. So there's kind of that, like, that yin and yang there of just, like, oh, this is problematic. But at the same time, he has... It's a foundation that he's going to be traveling from. Though, in terms of like Jensen, I feel like Jensen is one of the unsung characters of the MCU.
He was great.
Yeah, he was great. So great that, he saved Tony Stark's life, and he put it in his head of just like, this is your legacy, do something with it, I'm sacrificing myself, don't waste my sacrifice.
Yes. So, I cried when he died.
Oh, you did?
I mean, don't get me wrong, Kay, I'm a huge crybaby. I'm gonna cry through everything, but I did cry.
Cried. Yeah, I will cry at moments too. So that was definitely always a moment that stands out for me, Jensen being a hero himself.
Yes.
Other things that were interesting to me, I don't know if you noticed, but for me, I realized that the pictures of Tony Stark's dad in like the beginning that are like in the newspapers, like the old dude with the white hair. So that picture is as of an actor who later on, when Tony Stark's dad actually shows up in the MCU, there's a completely different actor.
Oh, interesting!
That part.
Wow, that is like next level ninja. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Similarly, this is more well known, but like Don Cheadle eventually plays the part that Terrence Howard originally played in this movie.
Oh, so I thought Terrence Howard was great, by the way.
I thought Terrence Howard was great too. These type of changes, as you know, in this industry, these type of changes happen for all kinds of reasons. But this is kind of getting a little inside baseball. But down the line, we learn there are kind of, it's a universe, but there's kind of different types of universes within this universe. So it kind of opens all these like loopholes of like, well, maybe Terrence Howard...
Wait. What is this universe within a universe?
The whole idea is like, this might be a spoiler for you, but like the whole idea...
Okay, no, don't spoil it.
Okay, I'm not going to spoil it.
Okay,
but just like
we
keep
will
that in
pin
mind.
this.
Just like, there are people who played characters in this universe. Is there a way... there might actually be like nerdy explanations of explaining this, even though we know it's just the fact that like later on they were just like, we're doing another one, so we actually wanted this actor instead, you know?
Okay, wait. So you're talking about like fan theory stuff.
Yeah, fan theory type stuff.
I love fan theory stuff, especially when they do it for like animated stuff, so I'm so eager to dive into that when I'm there.
Yeah, we will dive into that.
That's so interesting though that they're doing universes within universes.
Yeah.
Question, do you know, is that just the movie franchise thing, or is that something that they do within the comic book series?
I believe that's a comic book thing as well.
Oh,
yes.
interesting.
Where, you know, characters that play there's characters that play certain heroes, but then eventually someone else takes up the mantle, or there's a different universe where that character doesn't play doesn't play that specific hero. They're actually a different type of hero. So there's a lot of like blend happening with with all these characters, which makes it kind of like great because you can have characters that you fall in love with but live different lives throughout the different universes.
Got it.
As in which I understand it.
Got it.
One other Easter egg thing is that what's interesting is that how you mentioned the Middle Eastern characters, they're kind of like one-sided, kind of very shallow, and said that they're
very
villainous.
flat, very
Thing is that group is called the 10 Rings.
And, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, there's a movie that's going to come out in Phase 4 called Shang Chi and the 10 Rings. So.
And is that a connection?
Yes. So it's going to be that same group. So those characters, even though they were kind of one-dimensional in this movie, they might get fleshed out even more in this
Phase
upcoming
4.
movie.
Gotcha.
With Shang-Chi.
Well, I'm very excited to see that movie when I think it'll be really cool just because I'm starting at 0, and hopefully by the time we get to Phase 4 I will have caught up with everything, and I'm really excited to see how much I learn and grow and where my perspective is then.
And to go on that same kind of like thought process, like Shang-Chi is Asian.
Wait, time out. Isn't Shang-Chi? Yeah, I was just literally going to say that.
So
sounds like it could be Chinese.
Yeah, I think so. And so they're even fleshing out the universe even more and bringing in more heroes that create more dimension to those, to the kind of like character pool that was mainly in the beginning, more black and white.
Do you know if Shang-Chi and the 10 Rings is a comic book thing, or are they now expanding?
No, it's a Marvel comic. All of these movies are based on
the comic book. So no one is creating like new IP or new superheroes.
There might be like
they might take liberties.
Yeah, that they create liberties with, but all of like the movies so far have been based on like specific characters and storylines that have come from the comics.
Gotcha.
Or are rooted in the comics.
Gotcha. Can I share what I thought at the end? Sorry, I'm going to adjust my mic. Can I share what I noticed at the end? And this is like not shallow, but just interesting. That ending scene, that fight scene, and then that scene where Obadiah and Tony Stark shoot up into the air in LA, right? And we've had our fair share. Last year was 2020. We've heard a bunch of crazy stuff. Seeing that, I was like, holy crap, social media did not exist back then.
True.
Social media did not exist back then.
People would have insted the shit out of that.
Yeah, because I remember like last year before COVID, I think I saw like there was like a weird like comet or UFO, and of course like everyone goes on social media to look at the hashtag to like it's trending, and I realized I was like, wow, they're like, just to go back and be like, if that happened and we didn't have social media, what would we do? How would we hear about it? Would we hear about it?
It would be mainly from the news, which is kind of how they get away with it, because they like have the, you know, army guy, the Terrence Howard character go on to be like, it was a training exercise. Yeah.
So that was kind of mind blowing, because the way they shot it, it was just so epic, and I was like, so Instagrammable, right?
Well, you didn't even have like, well, and the part where like he's like holding up the car with like the mom and the kids, like if that was shot now, there would be at least one kid with a phone.
Phones out.
Yeah, exactly.
Hashtag. And it was kind of wild to sit there and be like,
that's a funny point.
How would they have found that out? Because like, oh yeah, it was just wild just to be like, oh, we didn't have phones and we didn't communicate the same way back then.
Many things have changed since the beginning of this.
Yes.
So it would be interesting to kind of like track that throughout. That's a really great point. One final thing I want to mention, which is more of a personal thing, is that Jon Favreau directed this movie. He plays Happy, who's like, you know, the driver, and not much of a part in this movie, but it does get bigger parts as it goes along.
I did not know that was who Jon Favreau was. Because you know what was crazy was he came on, right? And I was like, that guy, because he's in a bunch of comedy stuff. And I was just like, wow, if I could just be that guy. I don't need people to know my name, but like if people see me, they're like, who's that girl? She's in stuff. I was like, I want to be that guy. And then only then to like
directed the movie.
Yeah, and then like looking at his credits, I was like, holy, like he directed Elf, he directed he was in Swingers with Vince Vaughn. Like his resume,
the part he probably is known for the most.
Yeah,
and so money, baby.
And you see him in everything, and you know, because I've heard the name like Jon Favreau. And so then to finally, this is Quincy, like Quincy's life is like two pieces of information and being like, when the dots connect.
Oh yes.
Anyway, that was really cool, just to be like, wow, that I see him and I've only known his face as an actor.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is that Jon Favreau plays that small part, but he's also a director. He's also very highly involved with the modern the Mandalorian.
Yes, I saw that.
But I know him as the friend of Rudy in Rudy. One of the first acting roles he ever did.
Yeah.
Rudy is about, it stars Sean Astin, who went on to play Samwise in Lord of the Rings, as like a kid who wants to, play football at his favorite college.
That's so funny. Really quick segue. With the Samwise Lord of the Rings reference, I was reading up on him, and he created a television production company called Gollum Creations. And the reason he says that, the reason he gave that name, is because a golem was like technology, and this is a Wikipedia quote, it could be used to protect or destroy if control was lost of it. Which I was like, so I love deep. That you bring that up, and then it's deep. Like, that's the company name.
Well, and the thing about Sean Astin is that he plays Rudy in this movie. And this movie is about, a kid named Rudy who wants to play football at his favorite college. I believe it's Northwestern. I might be wrong about that. I should know what it is. But it's kind of like a underdog story. And he ends up playing in one game in college, because all of his teammates on the team, even though he's not the best, even though he's like not a very good player, and he's too small, and there's all these reasons why he shouldn't be on the team, they help encourage him and are the catalyst to him playing in a game. My dad, who is a teacher and a football coach,
I didn't know your dad was a teacher.
This movie. Yeah,
I knew he was a football coach.
Loves this movie so much. That whenever he had a movie day in his classroom, he would play Rudy. Oh. And it's one of his favorite movies. So that's where I knew Jon Favreau from. That he was Rudy's friend. So to have watched Jon Favreau over and over, be Rudy's friend when I was a kid, and then eventually see him going on to do all these other roles, and then become a major director of not only Iron Man but all these other huge properties. Like, I just want that's just something that occurred to me, and when I was rewatching this, of just like, I have this like really weird relationship with Jon Favreau.
That's great. That's really great.
And that occurred to me while I was watching Iron Man this time. So
that's really great.
Yeah. So, you know, Iron Man is, you know, it's the beginning of everything. You have your Pepper Potts being established. You know, the Rhodes character, which was Terrence Howard, but eventually gets played by Don Cheadle. You have, you know, Coulson. So, you know, this is only the beginning of the MCU. And
can I say, it was very edgy. It was much edgier than I remembered, and it was very edgy. And I know one fun fact. I know Disney owns Marvel now, and it made me wonder, maybe it has something to do with Marvel wasn't owned by Disney then.
I will have to go back. I will.
So I'd love to know when as we watch the movies too, at what point does Disney own Marvel, and do we see a stylistic change in terms of like what's being done? Because like, you know, some of the, you know, you see the, you know, Pepper Potts comes in and he has bullet holes. Some of the fighting was kind of not like crazy, but it was pretty like dark. And even that opening act was what I thought it was pretty edgy for what I know of a Marvel movie.
Yeah, and dramatic and
and also speaking of technology too, going back with like things changing, it was really interesting to see what technology stood the test of time and what technology did not stand the test of time. So, you know, a lot of the graphics when he's designing the suit really kind of stood the test of time. You could tell they put a lot of thought into it.
Yeah.
You know, when he like puts his hand in the like I don't know what it's called, the thingy.
Yeah, like the arm bracket.
Yeah, and then like the, you know, his screen inside the suit really still felt real. But then when you see like the actual hardware technology, like his like flat screen TV, like that didn't work. The flip phones still were like kind of awkward. Yeah, so it was really interesting to see like what worked and where you're like, oh yeah, I still believe that
seems
this
a
could be
bit more timeless than this, timeless. You know, how much it aged. Yeah,
timeless is a good word for it.
Yeah, and before we move on, I have to ask, did you watch through after the credits?
Oh my god, I forgot.
Oh no,
I forgot. No, I do know that. I am aware of that. I am aware that this is one of those movies that you have to sit through the trailer.
The credits.
The credits.
And then watch until the end.
Yes. I forgot to do that.
First episode, y'all. First episode.
Yes, I'm still learning.
Then, what we'll do then is that we'll start next time our Marvel talk about the end credits, and then we'll get into, because there will be also an end credit on every single one of these movies. There will be an end credit.
Okay.
So we will discuss that, because it usually teases what's going to happen next.
Oh, okay.
And just
you know what, that will be really fun, because then we'll watch the second movie that comes up. I will, because I will have watched it. I can be like, did it fulfill what it set up?
Yeah. Yes.
Which it probably will, but
we can talk about. Well, I mean, it will. Yes. I don't want to say anymore.
Okay.
So that is, we did it.
We did it. We did it. Those are like Iron Man big strokes.
Yeah. And we're going to be talking about the Incredible Hulk next time. But Quincy and I, we have busy lives, and so this is also a nice time for us to get to catch up with each other. And something we usually do when we would do improv together is we would do a little stretch and share, where we would stretch out a little bit and share a little bit about our lives. So
guys, this is my favorite improv warm up. Kay knows why.
Which is why we would always stretch, and Quincy would get on the ground and get on the weird positions. But since we are sitting at our computers, Quincy, what's a stretch you would like us to start out with, and then we can share a little bit about what's happening with us.
Kay said, what's the stretch we can do, but we're sitting so Quincy can't get on the floor. And I heard a challenge, and I said, challenge accepted. Let's do, you know what, we'll start easy. Let's do, is there any place you feel like tight in the body?
You know, I want to just do some neck stuff.
Okay. Ooh, I have a good neck stretch. What you can do is you can tilt your head to the side, grab the shoulder with the same hand.
Okay, I'm putting my right hand on my head and
gently
to the right.
pull the side of your head down, and you should
Left
feel
hand is on my
nice stretch out here. Yeah.
All right. And so while you do that, I'm going to talk about my week this week. Honestly, I've just been getting back into, working life after.
Wait, time out, Kay. Do we need to explain the stretch to our listeners in case
I kind of did. I said I'm putting my right hand on my head and leaning it towards the right, and putting my left hand on my left shoulder, and kind of like creating space between the two.
The neck.
And
yes. Yeah. Also, if you guys don't know, just go to our YouTube channel.
Yeah, or you can watch us.
Yes.
And so I'm going to, I was just getting back into working after the Christmas, New Year break. Other than the other kind of major historical thing that happened is that I kind of doubled down on the show called Bridgerton. Have you heard?
Oh, yes. Okay. Sidebar. I heard it's very sexy. I just found out that it's so sexy. I was like,
so sexy.
What?
It's pretty much Shonda Rhimes' version of Pride and Prejudice, and
that's what I'm hearing.
It's getting mixed reviews apparently, but I loved it. I loved it. I've watched pretty much every single movie version of a Jane Austen movie.
Are you a period piece fan?
I am a bit. I
am too. I grew up reading a lot of period piece books.
Okay. Yeah. And Downton Abbey is one of my favorite shows.
Oh, I didn't know that, Kay. Guys, we're still learning about each other, and it's been like 7 years of friendship.
Yeah. And so I watched it again. It came out on Christmas Day. I watched it. It's 8 episodes.
Wait, Kay, I have a question. When you watch stuff, when you binge, do you sit and watch, or are you on your computer doing something and watching? Because I found out.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The first time I watched and just sat and watched like probably the first half, and then like the second half I was kind of also playing like games on my iPad.
Okay, games make sense. There was people when I used to work. I realized I just forgot to talk about my background in Marvel, my experience. I still work in web comics. So I had coworkers who would work on stuff while watching stuff. Yeah. And I also learned that when people say they binge watch, sometimes they're not watching with their full attention. They're doing something else. And I'm realizing as I get older, I can't do that. Like I need I need to give things the full attention unless I'm like cleaning or like, doing something that's very right brain, I think.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I feel like I just wanted to see what was going to happen. Like I wanted to know what was happening in the story. So that's why I just kept watching it. And like, sometimes I would do things on my iPad, but I was pretty good about just paying attention to like, what was happening because I want to know what was happening. But because of that, I had watched pretty much all of them. It came out Christmas Day. I had pretty much watched all of them by like the end of that weekend of Christmas. So this past week, I decided that I would watch them again. And then I sat down and I watched all of them. Like wasn't doing anything else, so I could fully, absorb them, and I really enjoyed it. It's Shonda Rhimes meets Pride and Prejudice, and I'm just like, I am here for that. And I really enjoyed the fact that it's like mixed casting, and they're using that. It's still very much in that period, but they are kind of like sexy, but sexy, and also just in like modern themes of like how the Queen is the queen is black and the fact that she would marry the king and how that allowed them to be more accepted and they have to like
Wait,
take
so is this based in
responsibility.
historical fiction? Is this history based or is it history inspired?
It's history inspired.
Okay.
I haven't dug too deep into it yet, but I believe there is some connection to the fact that the queen of that era may have been diverse.
I am hearing, someone in my writers group, they said that's actually factual.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think.
So
Yeah.
I need to dive deep into that, but
that'd be really interesting.
I was watching it, and the girl who plays, I don't want to spoil it, but like, the just all the characters are really great to the point where like I started like looking at other things that they had done. So that's when I know something has really like hit me, is when like it leads me to look at
down
all
a wormhole.
down a wormhole, and like what else has this person in? I'm gonna watch them, and I'm gonna start falling in love with not just the project, but also like
the characters and the world,
and the characters and the people who worked on it.
Got it.
Yeah. So that was part of my week. What's part of your, while I stretch you aside?
Yes, stretch your neck. I am currently, they're not men's socks, but in my head I'm calling them men's socks. These look like men's socks. I used to not be able to wear socks indoors when I sleep, and now I do. And I don't know why.
Why?
I don't know. I just needed my feet to not needed to be covered, but I didn't. The socks made me feel stifled. And now that I'm an adult and I pay my own bills, I'm like, don't turn on the heater until you are absolutely freezing. But also, if I don't turn on the heater, my animals cuddle with me harder, so double reason not to. But I don't know. I wear house slippers too. They're like little ajima slippers.
I wear house slippers as well.
Yeah, and I don't know, the socks make me feel sexy for some reason. I don't know why. These are like Uniqlo. I think they're from Uniqlo. They're very thick and comfy, but I just feel sexy.
Socks are for sexiness and warmth, people. I wear socks too, mainly during the day because my feet.
Oh, these are the only times my socks match, guys. I usually wear mismatching socks. Okay, and for our listeners, I'm showing Kay my socks.
Yes, she is doing classic Quincy physical contortions and showing us her feet.
Yes. Let's want to segue into makeup.
Yes. So we had very great highlights for this week. Speaking of highlights, I believe that's associated with our item of this week.
It is about makeup. Yeah. I love it. Okay, so today we are going to look at primer. Maybe because Iron Man primed us for the MCU universe, and primer primes your face for makeup.
Yes, it is the thing you put underneath the foundation.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
And since Iron Man is the foundation of the MCU, we're like, we gotta...
Theme? Is this theme? This is theme.
Yeah, this is theme. This is theme.
Okay, so just a little... Here, how should we do this? Do you want to...
Well,
let me...
I'm going to show the primer that I have. Great. It's this one.
Yes.
Master Prime.
Maybelline.
And the reason Maybelline, and the reason why I bought it was because it was the first thing that popped up on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. That's what they're counting on.
But it also talked about controlling pigment and blur and redness. And for me specifically, like I get kind of these spots on my forehead because I have fairly oily skin, I believe, and I've had kind of these spots on my forehead, and so I felt like I should find some way to kind of even out my skin so it's all kind of the same shade.
That was very smart of you, Kay.
Yes. You had some that you suggested. Was that right?
And we'll do a deep dive into that.
Okay.
You were very smart. The green is great.
Okay. Why is the green great? Why is
so what happened is okay. First of all, just to backtrack, I just love this definition I found, which is it's on Wikipedia. Primer is primarily used to improve coverage and lengthen the amount of time your makeup stays on your face.
Okay.
I also feel like it creates a nice barrier so that when you are putting product on your face, it's not like getting into your pores,
Okay.
right? Sometimes there's moisturizer primer. There's also primers that have SPF. The green primer is great because on a color wheel, green is a contrast to red. So if you have red tones that you're trying to kind of help improve, just to even out your tone, green kind of neutralizes it because it's a contrasting color.
I see.
So let's say, so it'll help with the redness. Let's say if you had like yellow tones, I think you would use like a blue primer. So you just look at the contrasting color on the color wheel. So you did a great job.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, they did a great job of labeling it because it said redness. So I was like, oh, that's a thing I need.
Yes. And also sidebar, there's also different kinds of primers for different parts of your face, but we're focusing today.
Parts of your face?
Yes.
Like forehead versus cheek versus...
No. So we're looking at primer, which is your entire face, but there's primers for eyeshadow, your lip, and your eyelash.
Interesting.
Not all mandatory, and all of this is like optional. It's what works for your skin type. But I'm just taking you through everything so that you can decide for yourself what works for you.
Great. Just giving us choices.
Yep. And some more fun facts. And we can skip that. Well, let's get started.
Okay. So why don't you show me how to apply primer, and I'll evaluate and talk about how you're doing it.
Great.
And
so I have a sample called Smashbox Photo Finish Radiant. I have this, I'm using this right now because it's a sample. Samples are a great way to test products. And this has a pearlized finish, which means there's like shiny bits in it to reflect light.
Glitter?
It's not glitter. It's much smaller than glitter.
Okay. So you're putting a little bit on the top of your hand.
Yeah, I'm doing it here.
Okay.
If you want to be more sanitary, or if you were a makeup artist, you could use like a metal palette to apply.
Okay.
Some people will like dot it on their face.
Okay.
Like boop, 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 like your T-zone.
Which is your
T-zone is like here.
And
then
your
like your
forehead and your cheekbones. Okay.
You can apply using a brush, a sponge like this.
Okay.
It's a white squishy sponge you can get at like CVS or Target. I'm kind of lazy with this, and so I'll just dab it on with my fingers.
Your finger. Okay, that helps. That I prefer a lazier, easier type method.
It's just easier. So I feel like I'm not going to do my forehead since I have bangs today, but
so you're just kind of like dotting it on and using your fingers to kind of like spread it, almost like a lotion, like a sunscreen.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a little goes a long way with makeup because you can always build. I'm
trying to. You already had probably some makeup on.
Yes,
right?
I do.
Okay. So if you didn't have makeup on, would I be seeing any difference after application?
No.
Oh,
so if you're using like the green primer, your face isn't gonna look green.
Okay, it's not gonna look green, but the redness should be going away.
Should neutralize, yes.
Okay, so you just basically put it on and just
pat it on. And like you don't need to be vigorous. You can just gently pat it on.
Pat it on. Okay, cool. So should I go ahead and try to apply?
Go for it. Yes.
All right, I am putting it on my hand.
And you can
like
shake it too if it feels like yes, that's great.
Like that. I already put it on. I'll shake next time.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna put it on my forehead first.
Okay.
Because that's where I tend to feel like it's not as even.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put it on here.
Great.
And just if you want to talk about my stroke,
so Kay is
am
just
I doing it
gently
correctly?
patting it on. Yeah, you're doing great. And just bring it down your temples.
Bringing it to the
That's
temple.
great. I feel like it's there. Once we apply foundation on, we'll be able to see its effect more.
Okay. So I shouldn't be seeing too much of a different effect.
Yes.
Like if I were to put it specifically on this like
Yes.
red part.
That
Should I
part
see
is,
it
so it's
different?
going to neutralize the red so that then when you put foundation and concealer on, it'll help hide the redness a little bit more.
Concealer. I've heard of this before. Is
Yes.
that? I thought that was maybe the same stuff as primer because I thought it goes on underneath foundation. Is that right?
Yes, I feel like depending on who you talk to, some people will put concealer on top of foundation or under. I prefer to put it under.
Concealer
and
under foundation.
yes, concealer is not the same as primer. I feel like there might be some primers that have like that are tinted that might function that way. I'm sure if you looked up make different primers with tinted stuff in it, it would function the same.
Okay. Primers with tint. Wait, sorry. What?
So you would have to pick a primer that is close to your skin tone.
Oh, okay. Instead of something green like this.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well,
I prefer to get something. I prefer to use concealer and foundation just because I feel like you get more coverage. I feel like when I have used tinted primers or tinted moisturizers in the past, I don't get the full coverage that I want because I prefer to do my makeup one and done and be done for the day versus having to reapply throughout the day.
So what do you have on like now?
Right now, I have a little. I moisturize, sunscreen.
Moisturize with a that has sunscreen in it.
Either or, whatever works for you.
Oh no! But what do you do?
I have a moisturizer on, sunscreen,
and then a sunscreen. So that's two things.
Yes, and then I put primer on to prime my face,
And then a primer. Okay.
then I put concealer.
Concealer on just specific
Parts of my face that have redness, and then I put foundation on.
And then foundations.
Yes, that's just my face.
Okay, so that's moisturizer, sunscreen, primer, concealer, foundation. So that's 5 things.
Yes.
For just the
And that's a lot. It sounds like a lot. I guess to me, it doesn't sound like a lot. But when you like enumerate it that way, it sounds like a lot. But that's also why we have. There's also things that are budget friendly. I think the 2 that I recommended for you was NYX and ELF. NYX has been around for a long time. They're actually Asian owned by Tony Ko. Fun fact, she started NYX with a $250,000 loan from her parents. And I can already hear her parents being like, you better do good. If they're anything like my parents, like if I borrowed $250K from them, they'd be like, this better work. And she started with like 12 pencils that she sold for $199. And it was originally a professional line, and they're now a part of L'Oreal, and they're vegan. They do not test on animals. ELF is another more affordable, budget conscious brand that I love. They also don't test on animals. They're based in Oakland, and I love both products.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
so maybe once this runs out down the line, I'll grab one of those.
You can try those, yeah.
My question is this something that like is it more like moisturizer where I can keep it on for as long as whenever I next wash my face? Or is it something like it's the end of my day? I mean, I guess it's weird that I just put primer on, but should I wash this off before, should I wash this off as if I've had a full face of makeup? Or is it more like moisturizer?
It's not moisturizer, but it's not a lot of product. Hold on, I'm going to drag the table that this is on. It's not like a lot of product. So you should be able to get the primer off washing your face. You won't need you won't have to double cleanse your face. Okay. And that's something we'll get into once we get into skincare.
Okay.
Well, cleaning your face.
Well, this is my application of it. I put...
Yeah, how do you feel?
Good. I don't like I said, I was trying to see if there would be a major difference. I feel like there's more difference on my cheeks than there are like the very red spot.
I feel like on your forehead it feels a little...
my forehead too?
Yeah, neutralized.
I mean, I feel tempted to kind of like put more on and like see what would happen. Like,
do you want to? We can. We're here now. I mean, and the product's not going to hurt you.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to try and just see. Because, I feel like unless it's almost like sometimes you have to go too far to figure out, what is the limit.
Yeah.
And I keep forgetting.
Sorry, and I keep looking down to reference my note just to make sure I caught everything.
Now that I put a little bit more on, I'm seeing more of the difference. And I'm just slathering on this forehead. Because again, I get a lot of stuff on my forehead.
Yeah. That looks great.
Yeah.
Actually, I feel like it's neutralized a lot of the red tones.
Yeah, and it's making it look a little bit more even. Because currently what I do is I put mainly just foundation on the days I have to be on Zooms. I just mainly put foundation on, but even then I can still see the unevenness after my foundation is on. So I think this next week, moving forward for all my Zooms, I'm going to put primer on underneath.
Oh, great. And then next week, after I watch the credits, you can also come back and talk about what the primer, if you saw a difference applying primer onto your face, then foundation.
Yeah. So we'll talk about and see about that.
Oh, I'm excited for you, Kay.
Yes, I'm excited for us because this is the first episode in before many to come. Our next movie is The Incredible Hulk. So we're going to be watching that and doing another item of makeup in the second half. But I think this has been a great start. What do you think, Quincy?
I think it's great. I had so much fun. I loved how much we unpacked what we talked about, and I can't wait to see the kind of discussions we'll have as my knowledge of the MCU. Guys, I'm using an acronym. MCU grows.
As the MCU grows and progresses and expands, so will my knowledge of makeup and how to put it on my face. That's all the time we have for today. But thank you guys so much for listening and or watching us. If you'd like to reach out,
just you can find out, or if you want to find out more about, just like brain farted for a second, or if you want to find out more about Marvel and Makeup, you can follow us on all social medias at Marvel and Makeup, or you can email us at wow, I almost messed that up. Or you can email us at marvelandmakeuppod@gmail.com.
And please feel free to rate and review and subscribe wherever you find your podcasts.
Please give us 5 stars or we'll never hear the end of it from our Asian moms.
Yep, them moms. They love to tell you what they think.
So many things, all the things. Yes. So many opinions.
So thanks again, everyone. We'll catch you next time on Marvel and
Makeup. Bye.
Marvel and Makeup is hosted and produced by Quincy Cho and Kay Kanapu. Quincy is an actor-writer based in Los Angeles, California. Kay is a writer-performer for Filipino AF and an alum of the CBS Diversity Sketch Showcase. You can follow them on Twitter and Instagram at Quincy Dinosaur and at Kay Kanapu.
The music for Marvel and Makeup was composed by Clarence Yap and our artwork was designed by Patty Lin. You can find them on Instagram at Clarence_Yap and at pattylin.jpg. See our show notes for even more info.
Yay! We did it! We did it!
Yeah!
Okay.
That's so great. Kay, you know what'd be really cute, since we're still recording, is after our credits, we have a Marvel post-credit thingy, and we post this.
Yeah.
And it'll just be an Easter egg for whoever listens to the end of, cut this part out, but up until where we're like, yay, we did it! Like, we could include that soundbite. In the credits, and then in the video I'll include that part in
yay after the credits.
Yay! We're doing our MCU.